Last Man In episode 32.
Featuring Dan Rudy.
What? Yes.
Well, since your contract talks are always on and off, now whenever you're on, we're featuring Dan Rudy.
You're no longer part of the main cast. You are now a recurring character.
It's okay. You are like, since this is a trade episode, you are like that seasoned vet everyone wants on their team.
You know what?
No, but
I just can't take the fishbowl podcast that this has become, okay?
You know what? Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry. You guys care about your hockey podcast too much. I need to go somewhere where I'm going to be the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard... You know, I knew that comment got big when, I'm not trying to be mean towards women at all, but when I was waiting in line at Walmart and two moms were talking about how, like, they're like, well, Evander Kane just said Winnipeg's a fishbowl, and I just don't see it. And I'm like, we're in Walmart. It's 10 o'clock at night right now, and you're talking about it. Like, obviously we're a fishbowl. Have you seen us with the Bombers? It's ridiculous. There's no escape.
But what I was actually going to mention to Dan before we kind of got sidetracked off it was that Dan is that character on a sitcom or on a TV show that doesn't have an intro clip of himself. It's just, as the show starts, it says, today's special guest on it. And then, like, it just says Dan.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
like
that's what you are.
Tim?
No, you're not. You're just a recurring character.
No, because you can hear your voice.
Okay.
Can you hear producer?
No,
I
you
see.
can't.
I've been
right.
relegated.
You're
demoted.
not relegated.
you
You got
demoted.
You got higher credits.
You know what?
I'm sorry that I have an education.
You're right. You don't need
God
it.
damn it.
You get that
I'm
education.
sorry that I had Jets tickets last
You
week
get a
twice.
seat.
Hey, I went to the Kings.
Look at this guy.
I went to the
Twice.
Kings game and the Stars game.
What?
So that's two.
You guys, I'm desperately trying to track down Sharks tickets. So, you guys, if you know anyone, upper deck only.
So here's my question to you, Cameron.
Yes.
Today is March 3rd.
It is.
It is past 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time.
Correct.
What were you doing from the hours around 6 o'clock, around 8 o'clock Central Standard Time?
I was at the gym.
9 Eastern.
I was at the gym from 6:15 until 9:15.
So that's 7:15 Eastern Time to about 10:15 Eastern Time.
Yes.
So I'm just putting a timeline out here. So you haven't checked Twitter in that time?
No, not at all. I checked Instagram.
If I were to ask you, have you heard anything about the Toronto-Florida Panthers game? You would say
nothing. Not a bit.
No. So Toronto was down 1-0 early, and then tied at 1-1. Then Florida made it 2-1. Luongo left with an injury.
Bad one?
He got a shot in the collarbone in the first period, and he played the rest of the period, and then he didn't start second.
So
Montoya played second, started
right now.
at the start
Toronto's
of
up 2-1.
No, Toronto's down 2-1.
Florida's up 2-1. Did Nick Bukestad score?
I don't know.
Oh,
but
shit.
Aaron Ekblad scores 11
Damn it!
goals.
He passed 38 points.
Yeah, he did.
And Ekblad scores 11
Where's my
goals.
Pizza Pizza?
I know.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Next week, I promise.
Yeah.
Which
I digress.
is a record for goals by a rookie defenseman for Florida.
Is 11?
Yeah.
That's a lot of goals to begin with. Has Trouba ever hit 11? Not to...
He had 10 last year.
Okay.
But anyways.
So Luongo,
Getting
started second, down 2-1.
Down 2-1.
Florida's up.
Yeah,
Okay.
Florida's up. So Luongo goes down. So Montoya starts it. Leafs tied 2-2. Montoya's hurt.
But this
Can
is
barely play.
about 20 seconds into the third.
20 seconds in the third.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
Play.
No
Can't get up.
way! No way!
Who's the backup on Florida?
But the backup.
Here's the problem.
Who's the third string?
No
one. So who straps the pads
Jade
on?
rime time. Serious?
No.
Here's so Montoya gets hurt, goes to the bench, goes to the room. He's gone for 11 minutes.
Yeah.
Florida's trying to find someone to go in net.
Who do they ask?
Anyways, Montoya comes back out after 11 minutes, keeps playing. Toronto scores a goal, but 4 minutes later, he's visibly he's hurt.
Pain.
Florida Panthers goalie coach Rob Tallis hasn't played in the NHL since 2001. Goes to Dave Talon, signs a 1-day emergency contract, dresses, comes out. Meanwhile, Talon and whoever the coach for Florida are, they could see them on TV in the tunnel. They're like, what the fuck are we going to do? Luongo comes out in his street clothes, talks to them, and I don't know, about 5 minutes later, Luongo comes out dressed and replaces Montoya.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah, so it's just like a string of events, and Twitter was going mad. Mad.
Go, let me
Bob
have it.
McKenzie, if you can tune into TSN4 in Leafs Region, you won't believe what's happening in Florida-Toronto game right now. Next one. Damien Cox, a guy that I'm not a big fan of. Great tweet. Been watching hockey for 45 years. Have never seen this. If there...
Oh,
Yeah.
Dan is showing
Yeah.
me right now. Rob Tallis.
Yeah.
Just a picture of him in
a
Florida
jersey.
gear. Whose gear is that? It's got to be Montoya's.
It's just got to be extra
They
gear.
have to have just.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, luckily they were at home.
Down goes Brown. If the Leafs refuse to grant permission for the Panthers to use a non-roster goalie, then they are history's greatest monsters. One of the guys I follow, Brandon Logan. The current situation in Florida is unreal. When's the last time 2 goalies on the same team have been injured in the same game?
Wow, missed the deadline by that much.
Yeah, people were like, it's very visible that he's hurt. Down goes Brown once again. Florida has an injured goalie who can barely move, and his playing style is essentially
Indistinguished?
Yes,
Wow, nice. Good guess.
from every other NHL goalie.
Okay.
Steve Dangle. The Panthers are busy looking up Connor Crisp clips on YouTube.
Connor Crisp? Who's that?
I don't know.
AHL go.
Yeah.
Marley's guy?
No, I think that's probably the Panthers guy.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Dang. Holy smokes. I thought you were going to
Okay.
go to Bernier.
The Panthers are allowed to sign a goalie if both goalies are hurt. They can grab a fan from the stands. Looks at stands, never mind.
Yeah, there is
No-
none. Yeah.
no
What
there.
was the final score of the game? 3-1 then?
They
Where's
lost
Goldberg
3-2.
when you need him from Cape Burness?
Nice.
Yeah, so
Florida ended up losing 3-2, but
yeah, just awesome. Which
how often does a guy get hurt, get completely undressed, and then come back in the game with about 10 minutes to go?
it's insane.
That's just
weird.
wow.
Yeah,
That's
That's
awesome.
why I
They
didn't want to
obviously
say.
that's so-
they
sorry
obviously
that
had
you're
no
hurt.
faith in their goalie coach.
Well, he
I
hasn't
would've
played
loved
for
to
13 years.
I would have loved to see him go in.
That it would have been a moment
Wait,
for sure.
so he was warming up and then Bobby Lou came out.
I don't know.
No,
There was like
he
a.
wasn't warming up. He was just on the bench dressed. Actually, Derek McKenzie was gonna dress in the equipment in case the goalie coach had to go in, so he would be dressed as the backup.
And Derek McKenzie is a player
He's a
on Florida.
forward.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But then Luongo ended up coming and talking to the trainer, and I guess he got dressed and he came out and replaced Montoya.
And during
That's
all
nuts.
this time, there's no play. It stopped.
Yeah, play stop.
Play stopped for 11 minutes while Montoya was away, but he came back and he played for about 5 or 6 minutes of game time. And then Luongo came and replaced him.
Yeah,
It was really weird.
yeah. That's why I didn't want to tell you
Wow.
on the ride here. I was like, Cam, if you looked at Twitter, no,
Do
we're
not.
saving
Like-
it. First thing I told Dan when we got here,
Yeah.
we're saving it.
On the
Saving it.
Awesome.
on the third Toronto goal, this was after Montoya had
Oh.
left and come back. He went down to make a save. He literally couldn't stand up after.
He looked.
It took him like 30 seconds to stand back up,
Yeah,
and he played after.
clearly
that.
hurt himself. lower body injury.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's
Actually,
awesome.
I was watching Sportsnet too. Apparently, 2 years ago to this day, Rob Tallis had to dress as an emergency goalie because Jacob Markstrom's equipment didn't make it to the arena on time.
Oh, that's funny.
Florida's ready.
So-
They've seen some stuff.
2 years to the day.
Wow. All right. So where are we going from
Sean,
whoa, sorry, go ahead.
last tweet.
Of course.
Sean McKenzie, the old double goalie injury move, posts a picture. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
Yeah, no
From
kidding.
dodgeball. Now, we'll get into Jets and we'll
Of
get
course.
into the full trade deadline and all the trades.
Save the best for last.
Exactly. But before the Florida Toronto game, something interesting happened. A guy who never spoke today to the media and was quite frustrated with it. Now, Phil Kessel essentially said that, I'll paraphrase, won't exactly quote him, that the media is too harsh on Dion Phaneuf and they should be ashamed of themselves for how unfairly ridiculed he is. And what does the Toronto media do with that? Well, what Phil Kessel was actually meaning to say was that he doesn't want to be a Toronto Maple Leaf anymore and doesn't believe in Dion Phaneuf's leadership.
They twisted it?
They twisted it that way.
was right as I started at the gym, and I'm like, it pissed me off. I'm like, gosh, shut
He
up.
straight up said, "He's my best friend. I'm tired of him taking crap from you
Yeah.
guys."
And he's like, he's a leader here, and no one sees it.
He also did say though, like, I don't know what the exact quote was. He said it's like Dion Phaneuf didn't build this team. It's not his fault. We aren't winning.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a shot at management. So if
Management is...
I'll be very surprised if Kessel's back next year.
Well, I'm sorry, but the management
I know, but when you say
Has been-
something like that,
has been since the
I don't know.
beginning of this... Since the beginning of the Scorched Earth, has basically said that he's not good enough to be there. I agree with the notion that you cannot build around a player like Phil Kessel, that he is an addition player. He's not your... If he was a... I won't try to compare
If he was
this.
consistent.
No, it's not that. If he was a player thrown into a team that was a competitor, you would see an instant change, like Marion Hossa in Chicago. Instant change. Like Taylor Sagan in Dallas. Instant change. If he was a player that was thrown in, not a guy that was meant to be the face or the front of the team, you would see him flourish a lot better. Especially if he had a centerman to play that wasn't Tyler Bozak.
That Marion Hossa is an excellent example, too.
Yeah.
I just thought of it, because think about the teams he's been on. Who did he start with?
Atlanta.
No.
And-
No,
Ottawa.
Ottawa.
Attawa, Atlanta. So Ottawa,
Wow.
Spezza, Alfredson, I guess.
Yeah, that would have
And
been
then
in those
Atlanta,
days.
Kovalchuk.
Yep.
Yep.
And then he went from
Went to-
there to Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
And Pittsburgh, Crosby,
Crosby.
Malkin. And then Detroit.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, no, it
Detroit,
would have been Detroit's second year.
And then Pittsburgh again.
No, then he went to Chicago.
He only
Oh, and
played
then
for
he went to
Pittsburgh for
Chicago.
like 2 months.
Yeah.
He played for Detroit for a year, and then he went to Chicago.
Yeah.
But he went to the final back-to-back.
Yeah.
And then lost
Three times
one.
in a row.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great example. It's
Yeah.
true, though.
And
with
that's
Phil Kessel.
what he is. And I think too many people think he's a Taves, Kane, Crosby, where he's the main guy, and he cannot. Not a knock on Phil Kessel. He cannot be successful as that main guy. I think he's a more successful player. From watching him for the last 5 years, I think he'll flourish more if there's somebody else there as the centerpiece. And maybe, them getting, like, maybe if Nylander pans out, whatever. It's too hard to tell, but I think maybe a fresh scenery, maybe somewhere else will help him. Same with Dion Phaneuf. I'm not the biggest fan of Dion. I loved the trade when he went to Toronto, but it's a shitty situation for Phaneuf that he gets ripped on so much, because if you look at other teams' defensemen or number one Ds, he's maybe mid-tier, middle of the pack.
I wouldn't put him below 15.
Yeah, that's
NHL.
the number that I was
He's a
thinking.
decent defenseman, but his contract makes him the subject of... Like, he gets a lot of crap for how much he's making.
But he gets paid...
That's not his fault, though.
He gets paid number one D, right? And here,
Well, he
just
gets paid
speaking...
captain number one
Speaking
D.
of...
Yeah.
Of course. And speaking of, like, at the end of next season, or hopefully this year, we've talked about it before, Dustin Byfuglien. He's a rover, yes. But say he gets... Just say the Jets give him 5 years, $7 million, $35 million contract. That's when you're going to see people scrutinize him a lot more if he has a bad game, because the money's attached to it, which it sucks that happens. But they play well enough to earn that money, but once they earn that money, it's like we still have that, like, that show me attitude, like, oh, well, show it to me. That's like when you introduce someone, like, as, like, say you're at a comedy club and you're like, oh, welcome, the man you came to see, or lady you came to see, funniest comedian alive. The moment you say that, everyone sits back and they're like, oh yeah, well, try and make me laugh. And you've changed your attitude in one line.
Yeah.
So it's like, and that's what happens with NHL number one defensemen, is when you sign that monster contract that you've earned and they think you're worth it, you have to keep proving yourself over and over that you have to earn that money.
And it could be the same with Kessel with the $8 million contract.
Of course, there you go.
The Phaneuf thing, I would compare it, I would just say, if you took Phaneuf and instead of saying, because in Toronto he's the guy for defense, like he's your number one, the defense is up to him, right? If you take him and put him as a third or fourth defenseman on a team, you take more responsibility away from him, you're going to get more out of him, because you're not expecting him to do everything. I would equate it to Tyler Myers. In Buffalo, he was the guy. And he wasn't doing well. Shitty team, but he wasn't doing well, and that fell back on him because he was getting so much flack saying he's not, he's fallen off, he's never going to be the defenseman he was. You bring him to the Jets, he's not the guy. He's one of the guys, but he's not the guy. He's the third or fourth defenseman on our team, and look how well he's played.
Yeah.
In 8 games.
It's a small sample size, but it's still
small sample, but you see when you
he can be.
when you take the player and don't expect as much from him, you get more.
But here's the other
They
thing
don't
too.
grip the stick as much. You don't make mistakes.
And here's the other thing too. When Myers came into the league his first year with Buffalo, he wasn't the guy there at the time either. He was third or fourth in line.
And that's what won him the Calder.
That's what won him a Calder. And the other thing too is, like, if you look at Phaneuf and you drop him, and you're playing him with a Doughty or a Chara Or exactly, Cam's face right now is in horror because like
Yeah, I don't wanna see
thinking that would be crazy.
Well,
and
because
that's where he would flourish.
we all saw it back
But
in
he
Calgary
doesn't.
days.
He doesn't play with anyone. That's of note. Like he hasn't played with
to equal talent of him,
like
in
a
his
Stefan Robida.
capabilities.
They
Yes.
haven't had. They technically have never really had a top two. They've never really had a top pairing. The closest they have was Carl Gunnarsson. You look where he's playing on the Blues. He's playing a depth role. Right?
Yeah, which is kind of
Yeah.
a knock on
And
Gunnarsson and
it's
the
not.
Leafs management too.
But nonetheless, it's still like you couldn't play him with Morgan Riley because they don't complement each other because he needs a stay-at-home guy to play with him because he's more of a two-way guy, and it's just I think he's better than people give him credit for. But I would like to see him flourish as, like we said, a 3 or 4 guy or even a 2 guy. In other news involving Dion Phaneuf, there was a certain tweet yesterday.
I missed
On
that
Trade
tweet. I was
Center.
trying to find it.
There's
that
some
mentioned-
screenshots on Twitter of it.
I'm not going to read the tweet.
Okay.
Um,
Can you give a brief description?
So
of-
what it was it was allegedly saying, the guy said, Leafs are looking to trade Lupul because he had slept with Phaneuf's wife. Now, and then hashtag at Trade Center. Now, normally that tweet would never reach TSN.
Someone's got to screen that.
Someone's got to screen that. It made it to air.
How
So,
did it make it to air?
I don't know. The guy that was
Ah.
screening it put it on. Maybe he thought it was a funny joke, whatever.
Or maybe just read it quick and didn't read. Maybe,
Yeah.
Maybe he accidentally double clicked something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You'd, like,
It could have been a mistake. Lupo obviously got note of this, got wind of it. It blew up Twitter. TSN PR on Twitter sent out an apology about it maybe 2 minutes after it happened. And then Lupo found out. He said, TSN is a poor man's TMZ. And then now, what came out today is that they are seeking legal action on both TSN and the guy who wrote the tweet.
Defamation.
Yeah, and just like losses because they've dealt with so much now because every question is about that.
I don't think you can't. I don't think they can get anything out of the guy that made
Yeah.
the tweet.
Yeah, they can.
I mean, it's Twitter. You can do.
Oh, wait,
whatever
they're
you
going
want.
after
It's
the-
not.
okay,
It's
they're
not
going-
though. Like you can still. It's still considered slander.
I guess.
Oh,
But-
they're going after the guy who wrote the tweet.
They were going
and
after the guy
TSN.
and TSN.
Oh, I thought when
Now
you said
TSN
the guy, it was the guy who okayed it.
The guy on TSN has they put out a formal apology on air today, saying they apologize it should never have happened, and I didn't see the actual apology, but it was supposed to air during the Leafs Panthers game during the first intermission.
I
or
read the
whatever.
letter they put out. It was
Yeah,
just,
it was-
It was a standard.
They were going to
We
seek
fucked
legal
up,
action.
essentially.
Yeah, and then the guy who made the tweet apparently they can sue for slander or whatever it is because it's a falsified claim. That's what it is, and it has
Are you
caused.
really gonna sue some loser in his mom's basement who makes a tweet though? Like really?
But
Well,
like,
it'll teach him a
Here's the
lesson.
thing.
but
Think
here
of
it is
others.
though. Like,
They're making this a big deal when they should be trying to hush it. Like, do you really want this out there? No. If they had just taken the tweet down and issued the apology to Dion Phaneuf privately, this
or
wouldn't-
and Joffrey Lupo.
yeah, this wouldn't even be a problem. But they're making it public, so now it's
And the
big
media-
But it
fucking
was
deal.
and
made public
the other
thanks
thing-
to social media.
It was made
But,
public
like,
due to social media,
you know,
But
and
they're
guys
making it
like
big.
Wheeling Problems were tweeting it, and then everyone's retweeting it, saying how funny it is, and essentially they're hurting a marriage and a guy's life because of something written on Twitter, and then it was a mistake by TSN, but the tweet it's probably been said about 100 times on Twitter. And this is where the term allegedly works for us. Like,
Yeah.
when we make claims, they're not actual claims; they're alleged claims. Nowhere in that claim it was
We're literally
falsified.
sitting in a basement.
Yeah.
I
So
mean-
what we say is alleged, but what he was saying with that tweet and what they can probably confirm in law, in the court, is that he had evidence or thought wholeheartedly that this had happened and that's going to happen.
Maybe
And
he
he
just
doesn't
literally
have-
said it as a joke.
No, and that's what it was, and he said it's a
100%
joke,
as a joke.
and it is a joke,
And
and,
you know
he
what,
said
honestly,
it.
I guarantee you Dion Phaneuf doesn't give a shit. I guarantee you.
You know what?
I would say that this is more the reason that they're doing this. Like, how much crap have they gotten from media this year? Maybe this is their way of getting back at the TSN, back at the media, and saying, you know,
Look at what you've done.
back off.
But no, like,
Leave
here's
us
the
alone.
thing. Here's the thing, though. It was a joke, and the guys meant it as a joke. And when you say stuff like that, or when we we'll sit around here and we'll debate the whole, cocaine issue with the aforementioned players. It's all alleged. That's not probably true because it's probably not.
Because we haven't physically seen these guys do
Yeah.
a line of cocaine or be in possession of cocaine.
Yeah, so-
we hear stories of stories of stories.
Exactly, and we do it for comedy, for entertainment value. We're not doing it because we actually think they do it. Because they probably don't. The same in this scenario. The problem with it is when that happened, and then Twitter got a hold of it, and now all the media in Toronto, all they can talk about is if it's true. And Lupul tweeted today, he's like, get used to, #no comment. Because he got asked about probably 8 times today about it. In media scrums. And there's just no need to it. And like you said, the media should be hushing it. The league should be hushing. They should say, you know what, if you get... It's like when Tim Thomas wouldn't go to the White House. It's like that. And the media he's like, if you even mention it, I'm just going to say, done the interview. And somebody mentioned, he's like, we're done here. And that's honestly the way Leafs should handle it from now on if any stuff like that comes up. That's the number one way to get rid of it. And there's so many of these people that come out of the woodworks and say, oh, this guy slept with this person's wife, that's why they left. And it's, until the stories actually out there are true, then what's the point of reporting on it? And what's the point of even caring? It's their private lives. It's their private lives. Why do we need to go into their private lives?
Because the more speculation the media can get out of a story, the more interest it draws up. And I totally I totally disagree with I don't know. I don't even say I hate the media, but
we know you dislike them a lot.
I I feel like if there's not a story, they make one up.
Yeah.
And you know what? People are, I don't know if you want to call it gullible or stupid enough to believe, just because they read something, they're like, oh, it has to be true.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Look how many stories came out about when Evander Kane, that whole tracksuit thing. How many stories came out before anything was actually confirmed?
Yeah.
Even now to this day, a month later, nothing even is confirmed.
We don't actually know the
we
true
don't
stories.
actually know what happened.
Right.
But look how many theories were out there, and people bought in and believed it.
Yeah.
Just like that.
It's
the media have people on a leash. They say one thing and everyone jumps.
You're right.
I just wish people would be a little more, think for yourself. It's fine if you want to read the article, have an opinion on it, but just because someone of higher power, technically in the media, says something, doesn't mean there's any legitimacy to it.
Well, no, you go ahead, Kevin. You say what you want to say.
I was just going to say, the reason also it's such a big deal and why I could definitely see them going after TSN, apart from that gentleman or the person, whoever tweeted it, was that they gave this person who just said it as a joke power by tweeting it out to, we know, I'm not trying to undershoot it, but I could fairly assume, or it's a good guess that over 100,000 people were watching that yesterday, and probably 25,000 of them read that tweet.
Yeah,
I mean,
who that kid probably has. Let's be generous and say
he has 1,100 followers.
Okay, 1,100 followers. Okay, 1,100.
And that might have been a lot more after that.
Correct. So, I would go after TSN, and I obviously you have to go after him if you're going after the
TSN.
person. But it's unacceptable on both parts, and it sucks that they have to answer questions about someone being an idiot in their basement, as you said, over how their season's going or how their game was played.
And it's just that extension of the fact that, why do we need to be so involved in everyone's lives? It's the whole TMZ factor with everything. It's like, why do we need to be so involved in these players' lives?
It's like social media is great. It's great, the Facebook, Twitter, everything, great inventions. But honestly,
too much sometimes.
When it's used solely because people want to get attention, which is 90% of the people that use it, and then stuff like this happens.
Yeah.
If you're seeking attention, that's the problem with these sites. Because someone will make a tweet like this and be like, huh, everyone's going to laugh at this.
Yeah, and that's...
and now someone's personal laundry is getting aired in public.
Yeah.
There's nothing secret anymore.
Mm.
If this happened 10 years ago, which I'm sure stuff like this happens and has happened, you would never know about it.
Yeah, we heard stories, or I remember talking to my dad, hearing stories about Keith Kachuk being a party animal. But now it's how easy is it for anyone, like any one of us to go to a party and just say we were holding a drink and we like went to go blink and they caught us at the wrong moment and it literally looks like we're obliterated. Boom, tweet. Say if we're famous, bam, controversy.
Well, look at that.
Just cuss.
That referee you got, there's a picture taken of him in a bar holding a drink.
He got
Gets
suspended.
suspended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, no referee goes out and enjoys a drink from time to time.
How dare he be
Yeah.
human?
Exactly. But I feel like we should move on from this.
Yes.
So, last note that we'll all say, I'll just summarize what we've said. Sometimes it's, we understand the context of the tweet. Didn't need to be said. It was an error on both the guy who tweeted it. He was looking for attention, looking for a good laugh from all of his followers. And it was a bad thing on TSN's side, and obviously the media's mishandling it. Because they feel like they need to bring this stuff to light, because they need something to write about that's negative. Because the Leafs did a lot of good things on trade deadline, which we will get to. And
Moving to Jets,
but first, let's talk quickly. Jets really didn't do much. They just played 2 games, so quickly just tell us about those 2 games.
So last week they lost Thursday, St. Louis. Jets lost 2-1 in a shootout. Great game, though. They lost the game, but this was playoff game. I don't know if you guys watched it or not.
I did.
Scheifele had the only goal. Andrew Ladd, 10 hits in the game, which is a career high. Oh, Jets they basically played St. Louis's game better than St. Louis.
Which they should play.
Like that goaltending both ways. It was a very good, very evenly played game. Jets did lose in the shootout. First shootout goals that Michael Hutchinson has allowed in his career.
Ain't bad.
Not bad. It was a great game. No complaints. And then Sunday, Jets beat the Kings 5-2. Now if these 2 games is what playoff hockey is like, sign me up. I'm down. This was literally. Greg was at the game Sunday.
That was. Yeah.
That was one of the most entertaining games I've watched since the Jets came back.
That was fun.
Like, it was a fantastic game. Just hitting, the physical, intense, the atmosphere, it felt like a playoff game.
Guys, Toulousti's real. I saw him play hockey.
Yeah.
And we saw what he can actually do with the first goal again by Drew Stafford. It was just, he was forechecking on a guy, loose puck, he's got the great hands and just threw it in the net in front. Scheifele kind of bobbled it, but passed it over to Stafford. Stafford put it in. It was just great. And that's
goal.
What we can expect from him.
I don't know if Tyler Myers, if you want to throw a clip up, but his goal was really nice too.
Ooh, yeah.
Kind of stuttered, stepped at the line, and walked around whoever was checking him and waited out everyone and sniped it. Ladd scored twice. Wheeler empty net. This game was tons of hitting. I mean, one particular hit, Cam, you should throw the video up. Scheifele got taken into the boards
Awkwardly by McNabb. But it was more Scheifele losing his balance.
It was one of those plays where, both guys kind of lose their balance, but Scheifele got pushed from behind, like right into the boards. No call. He gets up. Play goes on. I think it was Trevor Lewis.
Yeah.
Makes a pass right across the ice, and Scheifele just full steam right at him.
I saw that. Hold on.
One of the best hits I've seen all year. Clean hit. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. He got jumped immediately, which is
I
fine.
have 2 things to say. I'll let you finish.
But for a guy that never hits, holy crap.
Okay, Lewis, the angle that I saw, he was looking left, avoiding Bufflin, who's going to hit. Bufflin saw Shifes coming in, so he held up. So Lewis, at the last second, looked at Shifes. Bam, too late, got him hit. The one hold-up, which I'm not surprised that he got jumped, because he stood there and was, standing over him, which was, sure, you do that, but it was,
he got jumped
half a second longer.
He got jumped, within half a second
because
of the hit.
I think it's because he stood there.
No, he got jumped immediately after the hit. He had no chance.
I'll tweet the video. There's, a good, second where, it was weird.
It was literally, the second he completed that hit.
Standing. The one that I saw, he was standing. I only saw the highlights.
And the other thing is, too, obviously, you can't...
It's the Kings, though.
If it was slow motion, maybe that's...
This is not a knock on you, Cam. I'm not trying to be rude here. Mm-hmm. You've never made a hit before. It takes you a second after a big hit, and you got to regain everything. Especially for Scheifele, who falls down every 2 seconds.
But I don't know.
It's not like...
Normally, when Scheifele tries to throw a hit, he bounces off the guy and falls down. So I think he was shocked.
It was a nice hit. I'm not denying that. I'll tweet the video.
It was I mean,
it was a great game to watch. It was
very entertaining. Jets played. You know what? If the Jets play like that, I'm not gonna say that they'll go far in the playoffs. They'll be tough to beat, though.
Well, Which leads into the next thing, Lee Stepniak for Carl Klingberg.
Yeah, the deal was actually made during the game.
Yep.
I think close to the end of the third period.
So Klingberg obviously wasn't playing.
No, he had gotten sent down earlier in the day because Wheeler was back.
Yeah.
I like this trade. I think this is a guy I thought the Jets should have gone after last year. Apparently they did. Apparently Stepniak was close. I listened to an interview with him today. He said Winnipeg was one of the final teams he decided between.
That's good.
I guess he's good friends with Keith Tkachuk and Tanner Glass, so he said he talked to them. He said he heard lots of good things about the city. So I like it for a guy that could be your third or fourth line. I mean, it's a big improvement from what we have right now.
Yep.
You know, when they're healthy, once Perreault comes back, they're gonna have a deep team forward wise.
And
probably
team
the deepest team that they've ever had since they came back.
You know what? I'll agree.
Arguably, going back even to Thrasher days, they never had a deep team. They had Kovalchuk and Hossa, and the rest of the team was like this. This honestly, like when you go 4 lines, this might be the deepest this team's ever been.
Now, obviously, just to wrap up Jets talk, I'll ask you guys
some more
this.
stuff.
Okay.
What? Go ahead.
I was just well, I don't know if you want to talk, but something came out today. The Hockey News put out their Future Watch, which they do annually. It's they grade the top 75 prospects or something.
And upcoming rookies.
The cover, interestingly enough, said, "Here are your 2019 Stanley Cup champions," with picture I think Scheifele, Trouba, and I think Ehlers was on the cover.
Yeah, Ehlers was there. Yeah.
And it said ... Yes, we mean the Winnipeg Jets. Which people, when I read it, I'm like, what? But I guess through their ranking systems, the Jets were the only team to get an A in the entire NHL for prospects.
Wow.
It's prospects and players under 22. So Scheifele, Trouba, and Lowry were included in this, but they were the only team to get an A. 6 of their prospects were in the top 75 prospects in the entire league. That was Ehlers, Patan, Morrissey, Lemieux, Armia, Hellebuck, and that's it. No, that's it.
Oh, that's it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so those 6 guys were in the top 75. I think Ehlers was 4. So that's a pretty bold prediction. Also, I was driving to school this morning. Craig Button was on 1290. This is a more current prediction. He said right now he has the Jets ranked as the 5th best team in the entire league.
Like as of today.
As of today, he says he had them 5th best team. Says if they make the playoffs, they have the potential to go deep.
It's gonna cost me money.
So okay,
and I want to.
And you know what? If they play their physical game, I'm not going to say how far they could go, but I'm not going to disagree with them.
I'm not denying. I'm not disagreeing with what you say, with what you think as well, and say. The only thing that about the Jets, that's why I'm just trying to think how to phrase this. They could definitely upset someone, but the one thing with the Jets that not every playoff team currently has, but most have, they have a guy or two who you put on the ice when it's overtime and you need just end this game. Mm-hmm. They don't they have lines that can they score differently than other teams, which is awesome. But that's the only knock. That's why I'm hesitant to say that they'd go deep as of right now. But maybe I'd love to see it. I'm not denying.
If you look at the makeup of the team, you look at Nashville, you look at St. Louis. There's no really go-to guy. I mean, maybe Tarasenko's starting to become that for St. Louis. But you look at those teams forward-wise, the Jets are built very similarly. There's no go-to guy. It's 4 lines that all contribute.
That's true.
Here's my argument.
There's no real superstar on either team.
I don't. Okay, hold on.
Forward-wise.
With the Blues, this is what I think of. I get that they... Okay,
Tarasenko, one day, yes, but Nashville, there's no superstar.
But, okay...
Forsberg, you could argue.
One day, he's not a superstar, though.
Yeah, I'd say he's pretty superstar.
When I say superstar, I mean Stamkos. I mean that level.
Okay.
There's no go-to guy.
Before you go, I was just going to say about, I'll just use Nashville and... I'll just use Nashville and the Blues. Just Blues right off the hop. Sure, they don't have, an upper echelon score, but here's the thing. If there's I'm just going to use a breakaway as the one that came in my head. If there's a breakaway with Oshie or Tarasenko or even Jaden Schwartz, those guys are cash money in shootouts and breakaways. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying the Jets don't have a guy, but they don't have a guy in that, I'm gonna bet this. I'll bet $30 that this guy gets a breakaway. He scores. I don't. Jets don't have.
They don't
that
have
guy.
a finisher, so to speak.
Yes.
But I mean,
They still have the players that they score differently. They're gonna turn over and score those Toulouse Stafford goals.
you guys might not agree with me, but if you take forward depth and you compare, I'm gonna say Nashville and Winnipeg, I'd say it's even.
Of
Well,
course, but then you break
even-
away and look at goalies and
And
defensemen.
Defenseman, I think, aside from Shea Weber,
Okay, you go.
Winnipeg's defense is pretty good.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not denying that.
You take Shea
But
Weber, obviously, but aside from that,
Franson, Seth Jones, Matthias Ekholm,
Roman
guys are-
Josi.
Roman Yossi. Damn,
yeah,
see?
Dustin Byfuglien, Toby Enstrom, Tyler Myers, Jacob Trouba.
'Kay.
I would put Byfuglien ahead of any guy on Nashville except for Shea Weber.
Okay.
Oh yeah, not yeah.
Tyler Myers, I would put on par with almost anyone besides Shea Weber.
Okay.
I know
You know what?
Now it's down to opinion. I
I
guess,
know you
yeah.
like
It's-
Frank
it's
because he was a
opinion.
Leaf, but I don't think he's good, but he's not.
But I know,
that
but
good.
look where he's playing. It's on the third pairing, which is like in the Leafs, he was second pairing and top line
like I
power
mean,
play.
Seth Jones, I'd take Jacob Trouba. Honestly,
That's like
Yeah.
that's 50-50, right?
And I understand that debate,
I just think the Jets' depth can match up with those teams.
but okay.
Pecorino, I mean, that's fuck. We're screwed. But
Go.
Okay. If the Jets have to play their own division in the playoffs, they will not get through. Simple
And
reason.
they have to do that.
No, they don't.
What?
Because they could technically play the other side
Oh right.
because of the wild card. They could technically play against the Anaheims and the Vancouvers, the LAs, and the San Jose's, or even Calgary, which we'll get to later in the podcast. However, to go through the Central Division gauntlet, if we finish wild card spot, fourth or wherever, and we have to play Nashville first, that means you have to go against guys Shea Weber. You have to go against, I think, I'll argue, they have top 5 defensive depth in the league. They are a good defensive team there. They have guys like Philip Forsberg, and they have a guy like James Neal, who can score when they need to. Then they have Pekka Rinne in net. We have no comparable to Pekka Rinne.
And that what sets that's where their forwards take away. Goalie
Yes.
puts them out.
Now, here's the thing. Let's say we go with Dan's theory that we are on par with Nashville, and we get into Pekka Rinne's head, where we beat them up and we end up winning that series. Then you have to play the winner, Chicago and St. Louis.
Oh,
Okay, now let me just run through who
you
St.
know
Louis
what
has.
though? The Jets have beaten Chicago.
No,
Jets,
and I understand
of
that.
course.
And I understand that.
The Jets'
but
record in our division is very good.
I'm not saying
I'm just
anything
saying.
negative on that. But how many games did the Jets have in the playoffs in the last 4 years compared to Chicago
It's different.
and St. Louis?
And that's where you might see them crack. Because
And that-
they haven't been there.
And because
But
the Hawks know they're a
here's the
different
thing.
animal.
The Hawks got better at trade deadline. A lot better. Kimmo Timonen, if he can play, and he can play like he did in 2010, they won. They won that trade, 100%. I think they're going to do well with that trade. Then they also got Antoine Vermette. Another good trade for them. Another guy they needed to pick up. Great
They
trade.
had to make that move because
Yes, they had to. Because of
Kane.
Patrick Kane. But if he's back in the third round, that team's going to be mean.
A healthy
Then
Patrick Kane.
Then you have St. Louis, who's got one of the best forward depths in the league. Picked up Chris Stewart. No, they didn't. Sorry,
No.
that's wrong. That was Minnesota that did. They picked up
Zbigniew
Zbigniew McCulloch, and I believe they picked someone else up yesterday.
Robert Bertuzzo.
Yeah, but that's...
St. Louis, though, the thing, like, yes, they're talented, but they play more like the Jets. They don't rely on their skill. They try and beat you up.
But they can beat you with their skill. That's
they
the
can
problem.
beat you with their skill. I
And
agree.
we've had issues with them every year.
I
Our
think-
record against them is abysmal.
Yes. No, I will agree with you. But you know what? The Jets played them very well on Thursday.
Yeah, but very
If-
well in the
I
playoffs
know
don't
that.
get you wins.
I'm just
you
saying.
need to score more goals than the other team.
They have
and
to build on it. You know what? In 2004, no one thought Calgary was going to get past Vancouver.
I understand that, and you can surprise teams. But what I'm saying
not
is,
saying that they're-
we're just discussing on paper. On paper, I don't think the Jets can go that deep in our own division. If they were to play against the other side, the Pacific, it's a wild goose chase there because
it's
you've
going
got
to be tough, though, because the way it's shaped up, there's going to be 5 from the Central and 3 in the Pacific, probably in the playoffs.
Yeah, and
Because
you know
the
what?
way the standings are working right now, if Calgary or San Jose catches up, instead of taking our wild card, they're going to take a division spot.
Yeah,
Just
well,
that division is so low.
Right now, the fight is between Calgary, LA, and San Jose, along with Vancouver's there too, and they could also falter without having Ryan Miller there. But the problem with those teams is yes, they're fighting for divisional spots, and that's where I think the Jets can capitalize on that, because if they have to play Anaheim first round, I think they can beat Anaheim. Yes, they have Corey Perry and Ryan Getzlaf, which is great. Which is fantastic, but they don't have that goaltender in Frederik Andersen that I think is going to carry them and win them a bunch of games. I think Hutchinson can. I'm not sold on Anderson yet, but
Hutch has never. The thing with the Jets is they have guys that have never. They have a lot of guys that haven't been there or haven't been there for a while. I mean, Ladd and Buff haven't been in the playoffs for 5 years.
yeah, you know what?
Wheeler hasn't been there for 5.
It's great because even on the onset of this podcast, when we started, we never thought we'd be talking about this, so it's great to speculate. It's great to talk about it, and it's actually an awesome thing. I'm happy with it.
We had Nashville, Winnipeg as 6-7 in the Central. That could be a first-round playoff series.
And here's the other thing, too, that I think a lot of people haven't mentioned. Let's just say, off chance, that both Timonen and Vermette don't work in Chicago, there's a disconnect, and all of a sudden Chicago starts to lose. Jets are 4 points behind them. They could easily slip into that third spot. Especially considering that they play them one more time this year. So, it's still up in the air, and the Jets could maybe not even make it.
They could.
And it's great to even speculate that they'll be in it. And the fact they've been in it for so long is fantastic.
If they get in, I would go out on a limb and say, aside from St. Louis, any other team that they play in the first round, I think they have a shot, legitimate shot to win.
I'm not trying to be
St.
rude
Louis
here and
is
say
going to
they
be
can't.
tough just because of how the Jets have a hard time with them.
Yeah, and they're an extremely deep hockey team.
That would be a rough series though.
That
would be.
It will be. And
look
we've
at
seen it
Pittsburgh,
before.
Philly from 4 years ago.
It'll be rough without the scoring because both teams
rough.
can play defense.
You know what? It's exciting to talk about. It's exciting to talk about the Jets as being, during the game on Sunday on TSN, they said Barry Trotz, when they played Washington a couple weeks ago, they were talking to him, and Barry Trotz coached in the Western Conference for like 15 years. Said he's talked to a lot of the coaches out there. He said they don't want to play the Jets in the first round.
Because they're upset potential.
No, they are upset.
How physical they play and how loud that arena is going to be.
And
they
you know what?
do not want to play the Jets. Even Jeff Carter on Sunday after the game said that might be the hardest team to play against the entire league.
That's good, and that's the reputation we need to build.
They need to gain some respect for themselves.
And I think the thing is, the players in the league have starting to earn that respect. The media is starting to get it, and you know what? The players, I think, are feeling good about themselves, and it's all. I honestly, I have to say that this is one on Chevy. He's built a fantastic team.
Love it.
And it's on Maurice. He's been the right coach for them 100%.
And you know what? Just one more thing. That stigma that players don't want to come here. Yeah, we're not an attractive hockey market.
What is it that's not attractive about Winnipeg?
Winter.
I want you to...
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt, but did every player grow up in fucking Vancouver? Or in... Florida? Oh, yeah, because there's so many hockey players from Florida.
I wish I knew one off the top of my head. I don't.
Exactly. But how many players are from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta?
The best one.
I heard this on the radio today. They're hockey players. They don't give a fuck about what the weather's like. They are here to play hockey. You look at Tyler Myers. Look how happy he is.
Yeah.
Look how happy...
He went from the American Buffalo to the Canadian Buffalo.
Drew Stafford. Look how happy he is to be here.
Yeah.
Lee Stempniak said today on the radio, he said, they're building something here. I want to be a part of it. That's not I'm here for a rental. That's, if I can stick around, they want to win hockey. Apparently the Jets locker room, they're a very close group. It's a fun place to play. Yeah. It's the best fans in the entire league. I don't care what you say about Chicago or Montreal.
I think
they're the best fans. The players come here. Yeah, it's exactly what Maurice said. We want players that want to play hockey here. Get a thicker coat.
Yeah. That's all it is. And for how much time you actually have to spend outside here in the wintertime, it's very minimal. Let's be honest. Because the other thing too is you see guys that come in like Stafford and Toulouse, they're already working on deals with them. They already want to sign them again. because these are guys that they believe are going to fit the mold and stay here long term because they like what they see in the room and they fit in the room, and why wouldn't you want that? So
I agree.
I think there's a lot of good here. Obviously, I was taking a more of a devil's advocate, pessimistic role, a Jeff O'Neill role potentially, in that debate with the Jets in the playoffs. Either way, I hope they do as good as they can. If they get out of the first round, great. Into the second round, into the third round, oh boy, that'll be hard.
That would be ridiculous.
I don't know if I can lift you. Like, you guys saw me maybe at my lowest point in Game 7 with Toronto,
I didn't
Boston.
know what to say. I've never seen you like that
If
ever.
the Jets even make it, let's say, to the conference finals, let's say that happens, I don't know if I can survive that.
I think we'll all
A
be
game-
like that. As
yeah.
much as I'm a pessimistic too.
Like, I think I'll be
Same thing
tired
with
as a
round
fan.
one, I'll be like that meerkat, like, wait, what? What?
Yeah.
Maybe
It'll
I
be
should buy
weird.
a boat?
You know, it's fun because all year we've talked about it. Yeah, they're doing good, but there's always in the back of your head. There's always they're
Where's that drop off?
they're gonna
It
fall
hasn't
off.
happened.
But now everyone's kind of going, no, this is a good hockey team, and no one expected it because they didn't make many changes until 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
We
need to move off this topic
It's
because
fun. It's fun time.
this hasn't been the most important thing that happened this week, guys. It was trade deadline, and there were some pretty big deals. Now, I'm just going to run through
the big ones.
a few of the big ones. Starting with the biggest, most important deal that happened pre-deadline.
Yes. Yeah, the day after, right? Are we going
No,
to talk about that one?
the day after our last podcast.
Yes.
Do you want to reenact that,
Oh,
Cameron?
yeah,
Do you want to
yeah.
reenact that?
Okay,
I get
the
it.
moment I see this update on my phone, I was like, I wonder if Greg knows. So I call, and it rings a little longer than normal. And Greg's like, hey. I'm like, hey, Greg, have you been on Twitter at all lately or gotten an update or anything? Greg's like, no. I'm like, okay, Greg, are you sitting down? Yeah. Okay, make sure you're sitting down. I'm about to give you a second Christmas here. Yeah, okay, what is it? The Leafs traded David Clarkson for Nathan Horton.
What? What?
And then Greg proceeded to like scream, cry, jump for about a minute. And all I heard was like scream, cry.
I think at one point I was like, anything is possible.
The Kevin Gardner. Oh, right. People are sleeping. Anything
sorry,
is
Dad.
possible.
Oh, she's probably not sleeping now.
Regular
But
voice.
no,
we
but,
woke
like,
her up.
I'm
Too
very
bad.
sorry
We're
to your mom.
ruthless.
I'm sorry. But no, like, it was literally, and the thing is so many people are like, it's
so
such a logical deal.
It's so simple.
Why did no one think of it? But no, it's honestly the best thing that could have happened. I'm happy with that deal. But obviously, like, that's what I was saying earlier in the podcast where I said the Leafs made some really smart moves recently. The Clarkson deal, they got rid of Franson for some nice picks. They got rid of Winnick for some nice picks. And then yesterday they got rid of Holzer and Jokinen for stuff. So I'm happy with what they did. Not super happy about bringing Eric Brewer in because I feel bad for him because I kind of want him to...
Yeah, but he was
accomplish
just
something?
he was like the sacrificial lamb in the trade. He was just like,
Well,
yeah, you can have him too.
He was
Great
like the
work.
Ole Jokinen.
Yeah,
of-
he must be happy. Contender, shit,
Well,
contender.
he went
So
he went from Tampa Bay to Anaheim earlier this year, and then and now he's in Toronto. So
Jets might be seeing a lot of him this year.
why?
Jokinen.
Oh yeah,
I mean, they
whatever.
play St. Louis 3 times still.
Yeah, that's an interesting deal. I like him there. That's the player I was trying to think of. Pardon the voice crack, of who was picked up by St. Louis. The other really one of the big deals was the Yandel deal to New York, which makes them have a very, very deep defense.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of they sold a lot on him. They traded John Moore and
24
Anthony
years
Duclair,
old.
18 years old.
No, but
19.
John Moore's 24.
Yeah.
Duclair's 19.
I guess so, yeah.
He's going to
Wasn't
play.
he their big first round pick
Yeah.
last year?
He was going
Third
to.
And
round.
they gave
He
up
was
a
third
first
round
round
a
pick
couple
this year,
years
didn't
ago.
they?
Yeah.
And they gave up first round for this year.
Like-
Well, it's on here.
Like,
It's- Yeah. What is it, Cam?
So Keith Yandel, Chris Summers, and a 2015 fourth-round pick going to New York for John Moore, the defenseman, Anthony Duclair, forward, a 2016 conditional first-round pick,
I don't know what the condition
and
is.
a 2015 second-round pick. I
Wow.
believe that no, I don't know.
Is the
what
condition like if they go to the finals, it turns into
This year's
a
first?
first rounder this year, maybe?
I think,
Possibly,
I think
I'm not sure. I wouldn't
But
be able
it's one of those things where,
They want to
Wow.
win now. They don't care about their future. They want to win.
and
now.
that was something I wanted to allude to later. Is it's very clear that New York knows that the East is a wild goose chase, and it's the opportunity for them to win it. The other thing is, you have an aging elite goaltender in Henrik Lundqvist. How much longer is he going to be as good as he is?
There's how
And
many
they have to win
teams, like even this year, East or West, do they think it's like this is our year? Like Chicago, Kimmo Timonen, Antoine Vermette. Obviously, we have Keith Yandel. To a lesser degree, Washington with Curtis Glencross.
But look at the East.
Yeah.
Like, honestly,
Or the
Oh,
Islanders.
Florida. Florida too with Yager.
Yager, yeah.
And didn't they get? Oh, they traded away Heatley for.
No, they got Heatley.
Heatley. Yeah.
They got Heatley.
but you look in the East: Pittsburgh, Washington,
Mm-hmm.
Islanders, Rangers, Tampa, Detroit. Am I missing anyone?
Well, Washington, Boston.
No, but any of those 6 teams could be in the Cup final, as far as I'm concerned.
I would
yeah,
argue
they're all
Boston
good
could be
enough.
there too.
They got to make
I
it
don't know.
first.
They got to make the playoffs. Yeah.
They might not even make it.
But yes,
Neither might Florida.
The East is just wide open.
You know,
The East is wide open.
I think
It's
this
pretty
was there were the most trades the week leading up to the deadline that I've ever
Yeah.
seen in my life.
And
And I
you know
can
what?
remember-
And the thing is I think they needed to happen because there were such big deals. If you look at some of the pieces that were involved, you look, and it all started with that Kane Bogosian trade for Myers, and then it formed into kind of deals like this Yandel deal where you see big pieces going both ways, and it's a hockey deal. And you look at what Arizona has gotten now. They have Duclair and Domi on the same team.
And obviously
And they have
later.
2 first-round picks this year, I think.
Yeah. Well, no, they have a lot. They have
They're-
3 or 4.
They're gonna rebuild
There's
pretty quick.
3 or 4 teams. No, there's probably 4 or 5 teams that have 2 picks in the first round this year. Winnipeg, dude, Toronto,
Toronto.
Yeah,
and Flyers, guys.
back to
right
the-
here.
Just
Come on.
Just quickly, back to Chevy though. How good is it that you have a playoff team that's gonna have 2 first-round picks?
That's pretty.
That's a thing
in
of beauty.
in a deep draft.
You guys,
That's
we
what I
love
think.
the
That's-
draft. That's one of our traditions.
Yeah.
Well, we started the podcast.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And now we get to talk about 2 guys, not just one.
So, and then 2 other deals for defensemen that were kind of lower end deals, but could work out very well. Are both the Jeff Petrie deal to Montreal, which is going to bolster that blue line, and we're going to see what he can actually do outside of Edmonton.
Am I the only person that thinks he's not that good?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't think
he
he's that-
jumps out.
I
at
don't
me.
think he's
No.
that good. I think he was just the best that was
Oh, I
available.
agree with both
and
of you. I
that's
don't
why he
think
got
he's-
so much. Like
He's the best of a shitty bunch.
if
Yeah.
he was on the Jets, he'd be like the 7th guy.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, that's
we
like-
don't know though. That's the thing. Like
Maybe, 'cause-
maybe we're like
'cause, yeah.
looking at it because he's on Edmonton. We're not really sure. Then the Braden Coburn deal to Tampa
They
Bay.
give up a first-round pick for him.
I know. but-
Radko Gudas, 2015 first round pick, 2015 third round pick. Gudas is out for the rest of the year with a leg.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna.
He's
knock,
out for the rest of the
I'm
year.
not gonna knock on Coburn. He's a pretty decent player, but a first-round pick for a rental for him.
and
He's
then
not a
and
rental.
then
He has 4 years
A
left in his contract.
first-round pick though.
it's weird.
a 5'6"
But the thing
defenseman.
though,
Coburn? Yeah, goddamn
he's
right.
he's a
3-4.
top. Yeah, he's a 3-4. He's
He
a top
was
two.
only playing 1-2 because. Okay,
They have no one
here-
else
Okay,
there.
here's the knock. We'll go back to Braden Coburn existing in Philadelphia.
I
then.
think he's more of a 4 than a 3 though.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
So a
Especially
first
Well,
round
you
pick
saw
for
him in
though?
Atlanta. You would know. You kind of saw his early development.
He only played for like a year or 2.
Yeah, I
really.
guess
But
so.
Like,
here's the knock on Coburn is that, okay, so when he first got there's Pronger. And Pronger was always mad. So it was Coburn, Carl. And then when Pronger left, it was Kima Timonen, someone else, Coburn. And then Timo left, and he's been like in and out with injuries the last couple years. And they obviously tried bringing in like Shea Weber with that offer sheet. It didn't work out. So Coburn got thrust into a role that once again with Jeff Petrie, he's just the best of a shitty bunch. And Coburn,
a first though, like
hey,
yeah.
you know what?
But then
Bravo,
they
Hextall,
flipped. Then they
bravo.
traded.
Good for Philly.
Then they traded Brett Connolly for 2 seconds. So I thought that was a decent deal for Tampa.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Trying to recover
And
some.
now-
you know what? Tampa doesn't need a first round pick.
I just want to quickly move to Boston, where they gave up 2 kind of young forwards in Jordan Caron and Jared Knight. And what they got in return was Max Talbot, Paul Carey, and Zach Phillips. 2 very interesting deals that I don't really get out of them.
You know what it is?
Because now it's official that the only player remaining from the Phil Kessel trade to Boston is Dougie Hamilton. Jared Knight was the last
because
piece.
they're on the verge of not making the playoffs. Max Talbot was the guy that won Pittsburgh the Cup in Game 7. They want a guy that's got that down the stretch knows how to do what you need to do. 'Cause if they don't make the
Wait.
playoffs, everyone's getting canned.
Wait. Talbot got traded. He's on Boston?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on Boston
Oh,
now.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's no names.
Yeah,
on
there's
the
no
list
team
we
names,
have.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Then probably one of the best stories of the day was Jordan Leopold's trade from, I believe it's Buffalo, Was he on Buffalo?
No, Columbus.
Columbus to Minnesota. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I saw
About his daughter sending a letter to the Minnesota owners to get him on the team because she missed
Whether
him.
that factored in or not, who knows? But that's pretty.
You know, it's a smart move, too.
Kekalainen tweeted, it's like sometimes it's not always business.
Yeah.
And Jarmo Kekalainen, I'll tweet his tweet. It was just a picture of the letter, but
He's great.
This is going back, but I feel that this needs to be talked about, and it's on. When you brought up the daughter, this reminded me of it. There was a young girl at the Jets game.
Oh yeah,
Jets Stars game last week. Young girl.
I mentioned it. Yeah,
7 years old, chemotherapy. Held up a sign that said "Chemo by day, Jets by night." She got a huge standing ovation from the fans. Jets and Stars players all stood up, smacked their sticks over the boards for her. So that was really nice.
Fast forward to Sunday.
Sunday, she was at the game again. The Jets gave her the tickets, gave her family the tickets for this.
Oh, really?
So they showed her on the screen again. She got another standing ovation from the crowd.
And a sign that said thank you.
Yeah, a sign that said thank you, everyone. And then there's a video from just one of the cameras in the arena. You know how when they do the 3 stars, they give it the sticks?
Yeah.
I guess Lad gave his stick to a little boy in the front row. He walked up to the girl and gave her the stick. And then he walked back down to his seat. And the little girl kind of looked at it, walked down, and then gave him a hug.
Yeah.
It was super cute.
It was a tearjerker moment.
It was.
Really.
And then the next day, the picture appeared on Twitter that this girl and her family got to go into the locker room with the Jets, and I guess her uncle her name's Alex, Alyx. Yeah. I guess he made Super Alex shirts it says Alex in the Superman logo because he's her hero, I guess. So they made these shirts. He made these shirts, and they gave them to a bunch of the Jet players. So there's a picture of her and her family with a bunch of the Jets wearing them.
That's awesome. You know what?
It was really nice. Yeah.
Sometimes we realize that these guys are humans and they understand that it's.
Of course.
I'm glad you guys filled me in because I had no idea. I saw the picture of the girl, but I'm like, what's this?
It's awesome.
Watch the video.
Awesome.
They'll be too.
If I can find the video, I'll tweet it for sure.
2 other trades I just want to touch on, and then it'll lead me into my last topic before we wrap this whole thing up. Chris Stewart deal happened on the air. He had no clue, and they phoned him. The guys at Trade Center, James Duthie was talking to him, and he had no idea he'd been traded from Buffalo to Minnesota. So it's kind of cool to see him.
See that happen.
Did they know before they called him, or did they find out while he was on the phone?
No, they didn't know either.
They knew the trade happened, but they didn't know if he knew yet. But they just got him on the phone because they're like, could you imagine if he didn't know and you told him? They got it on live TV, and that's one of the reasons why they make that TV show. The last trade I want to talk about. Obviously, some great trades. A lot of depth players were traded. A lot of guys just to make better fourth lines. That's about it. But one of the most interesting trades is the Michael Neuvirth for Paul Johnson, I think is his name. Chad Johnson. Paul Johnson's the teacher at Red River. What am I thinking?
Hi, Paul.
What it says is Buffalo really wants McDavid. They traded away both their goalies.
It's funny. So then everybody on TSN started talking about the Buffalo tank, and are they taking the tank a little far? And if you think about it, so are the Coyotes. They traded away Antoine Vermette, their top center. They traded away their top 2D in McCulloch and Yandel. And Buffalo doesn't have a guy to stop the puck. And
Lindback.
And Stewart, if you score, you leave.
Yeah, like they have. Oh, and the other guy, they traded another guy to Montreal. Who was it? Torrey Mitchell.
Brian Flynn too.
No, yeah, and Brian Flynn. But Torrey Mitchell had like 10 points in the last 15 games. I'm like, you're scoring too much. Get out of here.
You're ruining it for us.
And Coyotes, they could have a top line of McDavid, Duclair, Domi. That line is a line for Team Canada. No, I know, but you had mentioned Arizona.
Even Eichel. Like, both teams are tanking for it. And do we need a change to how it happens to avoid this from happening?
Well, it's coming in next year. At least percentage-wise.
I guess so. But is it a bad thing for the game to have tanking?
Yes.
And why is that?
It just shows that you should still, as Dan has alluded to plenty of times when we've talked about it, just like, why don't they tank? And Dan's like, that's stupid. Like, how are you going to get fans like that? It's true. How are you supposed to build a fan base off like 30 teams? You could be like, oh yeah, like 25.
How do you sell players on? Well, we're just going to try and lose.
And that's the toughest
how do you
thing
get
to
fans
do.
into that
You
too?
cannot.
There's no fans.
You cannot get. You just simply cannot get the players to buy into a lose, and that's why the GMs have said, well, if we're not going to get players who are going to buy in to lose, we're going to get shitty players, and they're just going to lose. We'll field an AHL team against an NHL team.
Think about the case of Arizona. Like, how many taxpayer city dollars are going into that team that they could be using to, like, better their
anything else,
better the city with anything, but they can't because they're stuck with this hockey team that's purposely trying to lose.
But here's the thing, and I agree with this, and this might be one of the things that I can agree with, is your team's not making the playoffs, right? So if you want to get better and eventually reach the playoffs, you have to build through the draft. And it's tough to build through the draft if your picks are 10 to 15 every year, right? It's just tough. I've seen it with Toronto.
Unless you're Chevy.
Bam!
But
5-year plan.
Still, though.
In 4 years.
But they picked up Scheifele, still top 10 pick.
Yep.
Ehlers, top 10 pick. Trouba, top 10 pick.
But they're high.
I understand that, but what I'm saying
Who
is...
was the not top 10 pick?
Josh
Morrissey.
He was
God
like
damn it,
13th.
Domi.
Yeah.
Phoenix.
But what I'm
Arizona?
saying, though, and what I'm trying to say is that teams like Buffalo, they can't sell their fans. They're going to be like, yeah, we're going to be a, bottom 5 team. We can't sell wins. We can't tell our fans, come watch us, we're going to win a bunch of games. What they are selling by tanking is they're like, we may be bad this year, but next year and the year after that and the year after that, we'll be better. What are they selling? Hope. And
We've
I heard
talked
that
about
on
this
TSN.
before, yeah.
They're selling hope. They're not selling wins.
And that's what
they
that
have.
trade
you know
did
what?
too with Kane and Bogo. It sells hope.
The Oilers have been selling hope for like 6 years, and they still are selling it.
Well, sometimes hope also you have to at least it's not always about draft. I know, Greg, you love drafting best player available, but sometimes it's not always about drafting best.
No, I understand position too.
It's about what you need.
Yes.
But here's the thing, and they talked about it on TSN yesterday. They said the successful rebuilds take a long time, take like 8 years sometimes, right? You look at Chicago. They were bad for a while, and then they got Taves, they got Kane. They started to build a team around them. What we've seen in Edmonton, one of the big reasons why they failed is they've drafted the talent, they just haven't filled the talent with anyone. They just
and if
haven't.
you keep drafting Type A player, eventually Type A player won't work again with Type A player. You need Type A, B, C, D. You need the pieces.
Yeah,
and they're not.
And sometimes best player available isn't what your team needs. So why wouldn't you go for what your team needs? I understand Yakupov over Galchenyuk seems like a really smart idea. Why didn't you draft Galchenyuk, a guy that would have moved the puck a little bit more than Yakupov, who's a pure goal scorer, when you already had that in Taylor Hall?
Just a theory about just like people saying to rebuild, you want the
or Ryan Murray in that trade.
The like top 5 draft picks, I guess. Just look at the Jets / Thrashers rebuild. Really, the rebuild started the year before they moved here.
Yep.
Rick Dudley took over. They brought in Andrew Ladd, Dustin Byfuglien. They traded for Blake Wheeler and Mark Stewart. So that's a start right there. Fast forward what Cheveldayoff's done. You take the last top 5 picks that we've had, Burmistrov, Kane, and Bogo, they're all gone.
Yeah, and the other thing...
And then you look at that. So they brought some guys from outside. They added some, 5 to 10 draft picks, and it's working.
The other thing, too, though, is you have to remember the other draft picks before that, the Pavlik. The Pavlik, like, they drafted Pavlik and then basically said bye-bye to Lettinen, and they thought Pavlik could take over the team. Like, and that's, I think, when the rebuild started. When they started to say bye to guys like Kovalchuk, that was really the start of it. Because once they lost him, it was like, okay, we have to figure out what we're going to do now. And then they signed Pavlik, they got rid of Lettinen, and it's taken a while. It's been a rough rebuild. There's been some rough moments for us fans, and I'm sure for you, because you were a fan before they were the Jets.
But really, if you look at it, compared to Edmonton, it's not that rough.
No, you're right, and it's been exciting. But they've also haven't been just historically bad.
No.
Either. They've always had hope.
Yep.
They got Burmistrov a little bit of hope. Kane, a little bit of hope. Bogosian, a little bit of hope. Even the first year, the Jets would have been great. No matter who they had drafted, no matter where it was. But what had happened in the first preseason game, even though Scheifele didn't really crack the roster, Scheifele sold hope on himself by scoring 5 points or whatever, 4 points. In his first preseason game, he sold hope on him. And people got behind him right away. And then even Ehlers, with what he's doing in Halifax right now, he's selling hope to everyone.
And then there's the Jacob Trouba hype train where they say, 5 years this guy could be the best defenseman in the league. You go, oh, okay.
It was,
show me this player.
It's funny. I was on Facebook today, and this is totally off topic, but I was on Facebook today, and NHL or EA Sports NHL I guess, posted. I don't even know what it's called on Facebook. I guess, is it a post?
Yeah.
Okay. And they're like, best defense in the league. And they put Nashville, New York, and then Chicago for some odd reason. I don't think they've got a good D, but outside their top four, they're because they have Seabrook, Keith, Timonen, and Jarmelson. Outside of that, it's kind of shaky. But beside the point, so then they put D question mark, and then they're like, who would you pick? And everyone obviously chimed in on who they thought was the best. And then some guy, was like, oh, the Jets. They've one of the best in the league, right? They deserve to be there. And some guy's like, name me a player on that team who's even going to be there in 5 years. And they're like, Jacob Trouba. And they're like, he's not even a top 5 prospect in the league. There's no way he's even going to...
I mean, top 5 prospect.
He's not a prospect.
No, like a top 5. He's never going to be anything. Is kind of what the guy said.
Really open-ended argument this guy has.
and then I just read this argument. Have you guys ever read online argument? Because they're hilarious.
And that's what the internet's made for.
This guy's argument was essentially because he was taken out of college too soon, he's not going to amount to anything. Plus, he's playing in Winnipeg, a team that won't even be there in 5 years.
He signed the contract. He made the decision to leave. The Jets wanted him to go back another year, or they wanted him to go to Kitchener, who owned his rights.
Yeah.
He decided to go to NCAA. After a year, he made the decision himself. There was no pressure on the Jets.
I know.
Like, the Jets pressured him. None.
You look at Evander Kane, he wanted out, but that's his own friggin' ego problem. He'll want out of Buffalo in 2 years. You look at any other guy in
Philadelphia will welcome you, Evander.
You look at any other guy on our team, no one
welcome that.
Every other guy likes playing here.
Yeah, so a lot of guys like playing here.
People just don't think Winnipeg should be in the league. Simple.
Yeah, a lot of people are upset for some reason, and I'm still trying to figure it out. Have we not shown that we're better than half the league in fan support and everything? You go in that arena. Yes, there are fake jerseys. 95% of the people there are wearing a flippin' jersey.
That's what everyone said in like year 1 and 2, and especially now. But where they were like, "Oh yeah," Winnipeg,
and people own multiple jerseys.
Yeah,
too.
It's like Winnipeg is by far head and shoulders like for jersey wearing and like fan. Like I can't walk. Oh man, per 100 people, I'd say maybe 8 people don't have anything Jets on.
Maybe those people should take a look at the fact that we're the smallest city in the NHL with the smallest building, and we're in the top half of revenue.
And the fact that we've doubled the team in that amount of time.
Oh, the value of the team.
Yeah.
Well, hey, back to your thing on Facebook. It's the internet. So this argument is cuz.
Yeah.
Why? Cuz. Okay.
I almost got into it with a guy on TSN.ca one day. This is a while ago, but he's
nice.
He was like, the Bruins should trade Chris Kelly and a 3rd-round pick for Blake Wheeler. Really good deal. And he had a paragraph about why he thought that was a good deal. I'm like, are you fucking retarded? You're joking, right? Like, really. A 3rd-round pick and Chris Kelly for a guy that scores 60, 70 points a year. That's
a rough
That's a comment that instead of...
And he tried to sell it, and he actually believed that was a fair trade. I'm like...
Were you there when I told you the trade that loyal listener Matt Draper told me about that was on this website called NHL Trade Rumors or something? I can't remember, but he's like, this is what I'm talking about. It was a Bufflin and... Just trying to think. I think it was Bufflin and I think Sherratt Bufflin party for Winnick, Santorelli, and Booth or something like that. And they're like,
whoa,
no,
3 rentals.
Whoa.
Oh, you know what? I'll get it up here.
I remember all the Leafs fans whenever they were talking about the Jets making a trade, they're like, Kane and Bufflin for Kadri and Phaneuf. I'm like, you fucking retarded. Hey, we don't want either of those guys.
I wouldn't mind Kadri.
First round to get that happening.
We don't want either of those guys.
Okay, well, in the meantime, while Greg searches for this,
there's lots of idiots.
Weird stat, just regarding the Braden Coburn trade. Now the only remaining member of the 2010 Flyers Cup Run team is who, Dan?
Wait, it's gonna come to me.
I have a shirt.
I already know who it is. How do you not know who it is?
2010 Cup Run?
I have
Claude Giroux.
Claude Ginger Jesus Giroux.
Was he on 2010?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember him and his beautiful beard? I want that back again.
Okay.
Simmons wasn't on
this
that team?
This was the trade that this guy put out there.
The next
and I'll give you his reasoning behind it. And this is why internet arguments exist. And I hope you guys comment and let us know your best internet argument.
Yeah, let us
Okay.
know. I want to see this.
Toronto trades Lupul, Winnick, Robida. Winnipeg trades Bufflin, Party, Postma. Best player in trade is Bufflin, correct, but for the Jets this year and a playoff push, this trade makes them better, and making it into postseason is a must for the Jets. This is the year much needed for much needed revenue. Leafs reasons are obvious since they are going nowhere this year. Thoughts?
Yeah,
This really
so
doesn't make Winnipeg
We
better
don't-
this year, though.
We don't make
to
playoffs
get
without
into
Bufflin.
to
Yeah, I
get into
know.
the playoffs, let's trade our MVP. Yeah.
And then 2 other defensemen.
That'd be an Atlanta Thrasher move.
But, so my argument to that guy would have been, sure, you don't think Jacob Trouba's great? Probably because you've never heard of him because he's not a flashy player. He's just a sturdy two-way defenseman. The one thing that I'll argue till the edge of this earth is the Jets have the deepest blue line in the sense of that they have enough guys to fill every night if there's a case of an injury. You can throw Party and Postman in.
They have enough guys
Harrison.
that they're playing defense on forward.
Exactly. That's
Come on.
That's what I'm trying to say, is that a lot of teams, a devastating injury, they have no one. We have Sherratt that's going to come back soon, and it's going to be interesting.
I think the Jets have the most underrated players because they don't they just don't get the media attention.
I think the Jets have been underrated all season. I just don't think a lot of people think this team is good enough.
But
What's so funny?
No, I just laughing
You have to
about
look at their
Party on forward.
wait on forward, but when they're on the penalty kill,
Yeah,
he's
I
playing
know.
defense.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, you look at the guys on our roster. There's not really it's a good team.
Yes.
'Kay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, no, and it
Do we
really
have a
is.
star? No. Do we have good players? Yeah.
But
We have a
here's
lot of those.
Now here's the argument:
They're not
is
flashy, but they produce.
listen to this team, okay? I'm just going to say point totals: 60, 63, 65, 47, 52, 44.
Those are
23, 18, 32. I'm going to say
What are we
24, 10, and 11.
Those are your winning numbers.
No.
for New York Powerball next week.
No,
Okay.
those are potential. Those are, I believe, those are their
Projected.
total numbers for the team. That is scoring 3 lines with a decent 4th line. That's what the Jets have right now. Is they have depth all the way. You have Little Lad Wheeler, first line. Second line, healthy, is Perreault, Scheifele, Toulouse.
Stafford.
Third line.
I say Stafford.
Third line is then Frolik, Lowry, Stafford. Fourth line, Stepniak, Slater, Thorburn, or Halischuk, or Gagliardi, or Peluso.
That ain't half bad.
No. What does
At
that
all.
sound like to you?
Sounds like a playoff team.
Sounds
Yeah.
like a pretty damn good team to me. And you know,
And then on defense, you have Bufflin, Sherratt, Trouba, Stewart, Enstrom, Myers. That's a pretty deep team
our team is so. The Jets team is so
with
deep,
Hutchinson in that.
is so deep right now that the first 2 lines have played so well that Blake Wheeler is on line 3.
Yeah.
Not because he's in the doghouse, because the first 2 lines have just played that good.
Yeah.
And he was injured, and he's playing with Stepniak and Lowry. That's a pretty good third line.
That's not. And we talked about
If Lee Stepniak has to be on your 4th line because of how deep you are, that is a good problem to have.
I agree. And here's the thing too: is when we started this podcast, we said we liked the pro deal because it gave the Jets more of an opportunity to have 3 1-2 punches. We don't have 3 1-2 punches. We have 3 at a healthy team 1-2-3 punches.
Where everyone brings their own pizzazz to the table.
We're not going to be a flashy offensive team, even though we're 14th in the league in goals for. We're going to be a tough defensive team to play against when this team's healthy, because eventually Pro is going to come back, and that's only going to be a matter of end of season. Sherratt's going to come back. That's only a matter of time as well. And when we get to our full health, and hopefully it happens for playoffs, where we don't lose another guy between now and then, let's knock on wood and pray. That is going to be that is a team that, sure, the top end talent isn't there, but from top to bottom, it's a pretty strong team. And Dan said they could upset someone, and I don't fully disagree with that. I'm not going to do that because that means me getting my hopes up. And as
I'm
a
not
Leaf
saying
fan,
they
I'm
will.
taught not to do that.
I'm not saying they will. I'm
No.
saying that they
There's
have
potential.
a chance.
There's potential.
I don't think they're going to be the team that gets there. Everyone's like, no, they're going to get dumped in the first round. They might lose in the first round.
They're
But
not.
You know what? If they get there, that's experience right there.
And the other thing too is it makes it more attractive to other players coming here.
Yep.
And I'm just going to put it out there. They'll have to sign Frolik and Toulouse and Stafford, all guys that they can afford. And then potentially Stepniak. I don't know what his contract situation is.
He's
Is he
making
UFA?
$900K right now. So you know what? If you want a fourth line guy to replace Jim Slater next year,
Yeah.
and
don't you
he's
do
willing
that
to stay for
Why not?
I
for
would-
anything but Jim Slater? Yes,
Why not?
please. Are you joking me?
I saw that
Yes.
thing
why not?
about Jim
I don't like
Slater.
Jim Slater.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't mind.
Sorry.
Here's
Alt
some-
delete. He's an awesome person and everything like that. I'm not denying that. But
Time to
what he
move on.
brings to the table, face off. What he doesn't bring to the table, a driving force of offense or
Yeah.
anything. Like he doesn't really. He's just
It'd be
kind
nice
of
to see
there.
or Eric Odell fit in there. The other thing, and I just want to mention this obviously before we wrap up, is that we have three guys that are going to play staggerly. Toulouse, Stafford, and Furley are the three guys I'm talking about. I would love to sign two of them. And what that gives us a room for a certain winger to come in next year.
J.C. LaPont.
Exactly.
Can't
That's
wait.
where I was going. Third line. Him, Lowry, and Toulouse potentially. There you go.
Which leads
I,
us.
I think they'll just on one subject. I think they'll re-sign all three.
They can,
And you know what? Honestly,
and then let Ehlers have another year
if
of
What about J.C.?
let Ehlers and Patan have another year.
yeah.
I don't think
not?
LaPont's ever gonna. I think he's gonna be a Klingberg. Honestly, he's gonna be the guy that gets called up and never really. That's just my.
Or he could be the next Thorburn.
I don't see a spot. He's small
I don't care. He hits like everything.
though. But they have Lemieux. He's gonna
Yeah.
be their third line, hit everyone.
And Joel
fight.
Armia is
He's
gonna
gonna be
come
their
too.
Peluso, but who actually gets ice time.
Guys, we're not
It's
even
gonna
like
be
giving a
interesting.
blink at like Joel
Armia,
Armia.
yeah.
21.
Well, he'll be there. I mean,
Yeah.
there's
The team is
There's
the
endless
scary thing
options.
is
Guys, we
endless
have
options.
options now?
Yeah.
What's happened? This is weird. We're talking about Jets in a playoff position.
and you know
Yeah.
what?
In the playoff.
You know, if Stepniak is a good player down the stretch and he's useful in the playoffs, they could even bring him back if they want. I mean, there's
A plethora of options, which leads us
they
into...
went from the same team for 4 years to 5 new guys on the team
yeah.
this year.
This is very true. Very exciting time. We're gonna end with two
5
things.
players that are probably available come the end
And-
of the season.
In 5 years.
Who?
God damn it, Greg.
Mikhail Finarov?
Watch. Yes.
No, sorry, I mispronounced it. Mikhail Finarovner. Watch. That's-
yes. So Mikhail Finarovner
No.
watch. Got it.
Rovner.
Nailed it.
Yes,
We did it.
Because for those who are new to this, including Dan, because he's not there, that's Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel, Noah Hannafin, Ivan Provorov, and Mitch Marner. That's their top 5 potential projected, and that's us projecting that. So this is before
So
tonight's
it means
games.
nothing.
So
Yes, correct. Allegedly.
this is the standings before the games that happen tonight. So Carolina, Toronto, Arizona, Edmonton, Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Buffalo. Although Arizona might be now below Edmonton. I can't
Now,
remember.
You know what they should do?
What?
The bottom 4 teams
Should play each other.
should have a round robin tournament to figure who gets the first pick.
I think that is a great idea.
But you're
'Cause
only
Then
allowed
you
to
can't
use,
just tank. Then you have to actually beat the other teams.
But you're only allowed to use your AHL top line and the players you
the
drafted
salary
in the
cap
years
per game
previous.
is $25 million.
Ooh.
No,
Not allowed to use a
30.
player. Not allowed to use a player that uses up more than, we'll say 20% of that. So nobody more than $5 million. So David Clarkson
I
wouldn't
feel
have
like
been
we're
allowed
trying
to play.
to. I feel like we're just trying to rig it so Edmonton doesn't win. 'Cause they can't
Exactly.
ice any of their good guys. They
Oh, by
all
the way-
make $6 million.
Toronto has, I believe, a 9.5% chance to get Connor McDavid.
Well, did you know that the Philadelphia Flyers are breaking my heart because they can't just commit? They're like, oh, we're going to win 2 games.
You guys are 5
and
points
then
into the
we're gonna
playoffs.
lose
You got
3
shot.
games, and then we're going to win 2 games, and then we're going to lose it. You know what's going to happen? The Flyers are going to draft. What's the last team to miss playoffs?
14.
14? They're drafting 14. Like, this. Can't
Hey,
wait.
it's okay. That's what the Leafs did for a long time. You saw how that panned out.
Wait.
So obviously, thank you everyone for listening. Check us out on Twitter, LastManNPC. Hit us up on Gmail at lastmannpc@gmail.com. And also, thank you very much, all you listeners out there, for making us the 184th ranked podcast on Podomatic.
Oh, real?
Yeah, for sports and
100
entertainment.
Oh,
Out of
really?
how many?
184. I don't know.
It
We
doesn't-
started at 2,200, so
Real?
Yes.
We have more than, like, us listening to it?
yeah, apparently.
I don't.
Dude,
Hi,
we had, like-
Mom!
guys,
We had like 54 downloads last week.
I'm gonna be
Guys.
honest. I haven't listened to it once.
What?
Bullshit!